Jaymi Hensley knows what it feels like to experience life at both extremes. As a member of boy band Union J, he went from the X Factor to a major record deal, hit singles, huge stages, celebrity parties, and a life that from the outside looked like the dream. And then came the other side of fame. The band were dropped, the money stopped coming in, and Jaymi admits he spent what he had left trying to maintain the appearance of a life he could no longer afford. But nothing could prepare him for the loss of his long-term partner Olly, who passed away just weeks before they were due to marry. Jaymi has experienced extraordinary success, financial pressure, devastating loss, and the challenge of rebuilding when the life you thought you had disappears. So what have the highest highs and the lowest lows taught him about resilience, identity, and finding the strength to keep going? In this episode, we'll find out. I'm Louis Alexander. Welcome to If You Can. Jaymi, thank you so much for joining me in the studio.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to If You Can. Really happy to have you here. And I'm very excited for this conversation.
I'm excited to speak to you. I've been doing my research and I feel like a fraud being here. Like you're like Superman, but no, thank you for having me.
Not at all. Let's start strong.
Yeah.
X Factor finalists.
Yeah.
Signed to Simon Cowell and his label.
Yes.
That brought huge fame, wealth, success.
For One Direction.
But as I've learned from all of my guests on this show, the huge array of guests we've had on, success comes with struggle.
Yeah.
What's the greatest lesson you've learned on your journey?
The greatest lesson I learned was to say no to things. Because when you're in any field of work, and I've seen your guests, and do you know what I mean? What I do is a bit of costume, a bit of fake razzle dazzle compared to other people's journeys. But we were talking about that I have got no backup plan. So the greatest lesson I learned was you either have to give everything to a chosen field of work, that's a passion, but you also have to maintain a bit of space for yourself to say no. Because you can, in my career and my field of work is all based on, I want to say the word, but popularity and shelf life. So if you completely live for your job and it's not just a job and you don't say no to things, if things get taken away from you, what else have you got left? And I learned that when we got dropped. So I've very much maintained my job is my job. I go to work. I love my life, but it isn't my life. I make sure I've maintained life around it. I've maintained healthy relationships with my high school friends, my family, because actually I was number one in the country outside Ed Sheeran by 30,000 records on the 28th of November, 2014. On the 1st of January, I got dropped by Sony, so 6 weeks later. So, and that affected all of us, and my livelihood, my partner, my family, my house, my cars, all of that stuff affected all of it. Because for a very short period after X Factor, for about 2.5 years, all we did, me and my group, was say yes. Yes to everything, yes to, and our whole life, 7 days a week, was surrounded by teams of people. I remember we had one day we was in a car going to an event or a show or a record signing, and there were 18 of us. So us, 4, driver, security, sound man, hair, makeup, costume, the record label execs, 2 management, and vice versa. I remember sitting there going, we're paying for all these people to be here. And I was like, how much money are we earning today? And they're like, you're not. You are not earning money today. If anything, it's costing you. And I was like, so why are we here? And I knew why we're here, because we're here for the fans and we're here because we want to create music. I said, but I'm the only person, me and my 3 band members, that are not getting paid. So saying no to things because you feel like you have to, of course you have to say yes to some things, but that's my greatest lesson, is no.
But that takes time.
For sure.
And I imagine you had the power to say no pre the band.
Yeah, in your life.
The band then changed, and then you, like you said, you had to say yes. Other people were often making decisions for you, I imagine, whether that's the label or management. And then you also have Jaymi post-band, where you have that power back. How difficult is it to make that transition?
Very strange. I went from having complete autonomy in my life before it all, as a teenager, deciding where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do, all those things, to then becoming a CEO of a company at 21. And bearing in mind, we turned over, I think, £8 million in 2 years, our company. I mean, I didn't earn that. We earned under 5% each of that. Then you've got taxes and expenses and commission. But I was the apex person. Sounds really strange. I was the highest earner in my family at 21, highest earner out of all my friends, the most quickly successful in my field, yeah? So like I became, at the time when you want to be a singer, you're like, hey, I'm going to sing songs for a living, and then you become a #1 artist and you're on X Factor, you are the thing. But I had zero control over my own life, or if it got taken away, if I had no control over that. So you become this very odd version of yourself. And then after post of it, when you get dropped, you think the whole world's over. But I remember I got dropped and my first initial reaction was to buy a Range Rover. Why? And move into a bigger house, because it was keeping up appearances to everyone, because that's what we felt we had to do, was pretend. We didn't go live about us being dropped and being, for one, unemployed for 18 months after it happened. We lied. Our label, our management lied. We pretended to everyone there was new music coming. I'm sitting going, but this isn't real. We're living a fantasy. But then you start doing that to your family and your friends, and everyone's like, well, what's going on? And I remember then moving back to my mum's, me and my partner, my late partner, we moved back to my mum's, because I was like, I need to have some control over my life again. And while everything's getting on top of you, you don't. And that time, and I would say COVID, were the most in control I've ever been of my life, because I didn't have. And that's it. And it's really strange to say, because again, so lucky to do my job. And again, I've seen your guests, and what I do is not changing the world. Yeah, it isn't changing the world. I'm very aware of what I've chosen to do for a living. I'm not curing cancer. I'm not doing things that so many people work 10 times harder for less money or train for many more years than I have. But having that taken away from you gives you clarity, I think. And then you can start to make decisions that are sensible for you, are good for your headspace, what's really important in the world. And I remember thinking, oh my God, this is it, my life is over. And that's at 24. I retired at 24, could have retired at 24. So in 3 years, I went from being unemployed without a career prospect to being at the peak of my career, within 2 years later, being unemployed and untouchable. When you get dropped, that's a big stigma. Like anything, it's like a sportsman being injured, or you see sports presenters and stuff like that when they get dropped from TV and stuff like that, and that's can be the end of it, which is a bit of a head case to get to, because you sit and go, well, what do I do now? Which is what we were speaking about. What's the risks I need to take? Am I willing to take those risks again? And for a long time the answer was no, but now I have the power to say no to things that I feel like those risks are slightly more achievable to headspace manage.
But as we spoke about before we started recording, we must know our value. So firstly, I would never say that about you comparing to our guests, because you've probably brought a lot of joy to millions of people's lives. And that does change the world. But so we all have the power to change the world in our own little ways.
And everything's relative, right? So I've always said that. So, and I have I love my job, I love my career, but if I didn't do it, I don't know what I'd be doing, because it's really the only thing that I'm good at, right?
I resonate.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a huge risk in itself. When you are naturally gifted at something, right? I'm not saying my talent levels, that's for other people to decide, right? But I was naturally gifted at choosing this is what I wanted to do, and it came naturally to me, yeah? And I was built for it. I feel like I'm built for this career. I'm built for having no security blanket and wanting to always better myself. That's in me. I always laugh and I say, actually, being a singer or a dancer, which I am, is like being an athlete. You know, I have to train, I have to look after myself, I have to make sure that I'm spending a lot of hours outside of the actual bit that people see, making sure that the bookings are there, that there's work. I was laughing that I've got no work in the diary from January. Nothing. I know that I hope that will come, because it has every year. But you sit there and go, what am I doing? Right, okay, what am I doing? But no, thank you. I think everything is relative. But it's a very tricky career. I feel like it's one of the only careers, when you do what we do, and we do different things, but again, we're in the media, and you've chosen a field that you love to do, that it's a very hard place to complain about the things that aren't right within it, because I know that I'm privileged, I know that I'm lucky to do it, and I'm just a small fry in this huge industry that I'm in. But I'm very aware of not being negative about what I do, but also being quite realistic to what I actually do. I don't think, and thank you for saying, but I may have changed a few people's lives, but I'm not changing the world. Yeah, there are people out there that real people, NHS staff, our military, and I've grown up in a military family, so my family are RAF. So I know what hard work and dedication takes to do something, but I'm very self-deprecating in, it might make a little difference to someone, but there are people that really have struggles just having their lives at risk when they go to work. Yeah, so
absolutely,
everything is relative in 100%. My book.
You mentioned there about being 21 when you reached almost your apex. What's very interesting is lots of the guests we've had on this show have achieved wonderful success, but it's taken 10, 20, 30 years of their career.
Yeah.
And I feel like we live in a world now where people see success, maybe it's because of social media and the fast, instant world we live in, where they see success and they want it now. Lots of the trends are about earn your first million in your mid-20s, all these different things. That's not often the reality. You know, with my adventures, I'm very much in my foundation block. My first 10 years, I think, are going to be the foundation years. I'm willing to work for 10 years to get hopefully what I want to.
Yeah.
I'm willing to turn up every day, all the challenges, because I'm not living for the instant challenge that's going to come with whatever moment I'm hoping for. But at 21, you did achieve that. So you're very different to our other guests in the sense of you felt that success, but you also felt the pressure. What's the reality of at 21 years old achieving that success?
It's the daunting part of it is the sustaining it afterwards. Okay. So I feel like, yes, and we see in anything that's in media, the younger you are, the better, because that means they get more years out of you. That is a fact, because you are just a product. It didn't matter who I was. It wasn't because I was talented. I was in the right place in the right time in the right group. That record labels and those managements want to make as much money off you as possible. So the longer that you have to do it while you're fit, healthy and young and marketable, the better. But the difference is like in any other career. So I left college 20 years ago this year and have worked professionally since, right? So I'm 20 years into a career. In any other job, I'd probably be the CFO, the CEO of a company, looking at retirement, because most people reach that kind of high level in their, like you said, like mid-40s maybe. Then you've probably got 20 years of working left. Some people retire in their mid-60s. I now, at 36, have had the same amount of time, and I would be looking at retirement in any other field now. And again, I question that. Is it time for me to look at something new? I enjoy my job. I'll always be able to sing. But what is next? And you're constantly chasing. And it's only the strangest thing, I did a musical this year. I went into a musical in the West End, which sadly got cancelled because of the budgeting and all of that. But I remember being in the audition process, which again, I will never take a job if I've not earned it. I don't want to be called up and be like, hey, can you do this job? I don't believe in that kind of casting. I believe everyone should fight for it and audition. But I did sit there and laugh, and I was sat there with this guy next to me who got in the show. Wonderful performer. And I think he was 19, 20. I was like, so what have you done? He's like, I just literally left college last week. And I laughed, and I was like, because he's just as talented as me and just as deserving. That's like someone who's been the CEO of Vodafone or any other phone company, sitting down for a job for another phone company to be the CEO next to someone who's just worked in the retail shop for a year. There's no other job like it where actually 20 years experience doesn't matter. It might matter once they want to offer you and they start looking if you're, and that's the beauty of my industry, but also I was like, that's such a mad place to be competing against people that I'm old enough to be this guy's dad. I've been working as long as he's been alive. But there's a good chance that we're both going up for the same role and I won't get it, he will get it, and let the best man, of course, win. But you do sit there and go, this is a very strange industry to be in.
It's challenging, because if we generalise and look at someone who, say, has more of a traditional career, their motivation comes from the progressive step. Because every year they know their salary may go up, 100%. Better benefits, whatever it is. But what keeps you motivated for 20 years when there isn't that traditional stepping stones? There's milestones, but you have to create them. And
your milestones, like you said, those milestones can go like that, which is in any career. But I can do one job that is nominated for awards and all of that, and then the next job gets cancelled and flops. But you think the next one's going to be the next big thing. Anyone, I think, yourself like you, again, you're an adventurer, and what you do is astronomical to me. To push your body into so many different physical and dangerous scenarios. Like I said, I might put on a sparkly coat and sing a few songs to people, right?
Which is challenging.
Which is challenging to a lot of people, trust me. Sequence itch. But it's like, I don't know, it's like an addiction. But any job in any walk of life, it's like people have kids, they want another kid, and why? You're tired. My brother's just had a baby, and I know they will have another one. And you sit there and go, why do you want another one? Because you're knackered for the first year of it, or why when people get divorced, they want to get married again. You always want to do what's next. I think as humans, it's definitely it's what makes us human. Is never, I don't know anyone that's happy with right now 100%. Yeah, I don't think there's a single person that can sit there and tell me that they are fully content and they aren't looking to the next house, the bigger car, the earning more money, the retirement, the having grandkids, all of that. So I think it's that. I don't think I'll ever be satisfied in my job, because there's not a way for it to happen. There's never going to be a moment when you say I did it all. So I think that's my motivation, is because I think until the day that I no longer want to do it, and I don't want to turn up, or I don't care about it anymore, I think my motivation is it an ego thing? That's the wrong word. I think it is. I do a very egotistical job. We all do. Yeah, we all do a job for what do I do it for? And I do say applause. That is why any performer does a job. I enjoy what I do, but you do it for, as humans, we do anything for gratification from your parents. Why? Mummy, look, can we go down the slide? Why? Because you want your parents to be proud of you, and you want to be proud of yourself. So I think that's a big thing. And I made a decision to do this job. I chose this career. I was lucky. I chose to do this. So anything that comes with it, I think, is for me to not complain or give up because it's hard. Because like I said, I don't believe what I do is that difficult. There are people out there really struggling in life and have to do really dangerous and long hours and crazy life-altering situations just to survive. So I don't think I would be a good representation of someone that's privileged and lucky to do a job they do if I just didn't care anymore.
This episode is all about resilience. What happens when life doesn't quite go to plan, how we adapt, and ultimately how we keep moving forward. And while Bob, this show's biggest supporter, might not be able to solve life's bigger problems, it can make one of our everyday tasks a little bit simpler. Bob is a refill body wash designed to go wherever you do. You simply pop a Bob bar into the applicator, add water, and you've got everything you need for a proper wash without carrying around bottles of shower gel. The applicator has exfoliating bristles, the bars are designed to clean and condition your skin, and when you're at home, there's even a shower mount to keep everything neat and ready for next time. So whether you're training, traveling, heading off on an adventure, or just trying to get through a particularly hectic week, Bob is a simple, convenient, and built to fit into everyday life. To get a Bob of your own, click the link in description or head to welcometobob.com. A big thank you to the team for supporting If You Can. There's a balance between doing things for other people to prove them wrong, or do things for ourselves to prove ourselves right. And I listened to a podcast that you did this morning, and what was so great was you spoke transparently about why you joined the world of showbiz in the first place, or wanted to, why you applied for X Factor, and you said you wanted the fame.
Well, 100%. I think, and looking back on it now, I don't want everything that comes with it, and I didn't necessarily get to the amount that I wanted. But I grew up because being a performer, it's show-off business. Like, that's what it's short for. This isn't a normal job. This is show-off business. One, it's a business, and two, you do it because you like to show off. Now, I'm quite a black and white person, right? I don't have a filter, and I didn't do X Factor because I wanted to be a serious musician.
What does that mean?
Well, because people go on there like, oh, you're not a real... People get offended that you're not an artist. You didn't do Ronnie Scott. You didn't do the busking. No, I didn't. I went on X Factor because I wanted to be a pop star, because I wanted to be famous. So I got everything I wanted out of it. I can't complain. Now, I do call a little bit of the word we can't say on people that do go into that and then, oh, I never wanted to be famous. I've got friends that are just as successful than me, have got longer careers than me, earn just as good money as me, have no fame because they wanted to be a singer. They're a session singer. They go into recording studios. They're backing vocalists. They didn't want the front man spotlight. So you can't judge. I don't think you can sit there afterwards and going on anything where you put yourself in a public domain and go, well, I didn't want it. I didn't. No, that doesn't work for me. I knew what I was signing up for because I grew up as well in the things that I was interested in. I grew up in the late 90s when Spice Girls mania was huge, when everything was about television and reality stars in the 2000s, Katie Price, Peter Andre, Cheryl Cole, all of those things that were in the job, in the world that I enjoyed, yeah, that it was about fame had become such a huge thing, and it was, I didn't want the fame because I didn't want to be bothered. I'm quite a private person, actually. It's really weird. I'm such a contradiction in the fact I'm an introverted extrovert. So my job is my job, but in my job, I wanted to be famous, successful, I wanted to earn money, I wanted a nice house, I wanted to have number one records, I wanted fans. In my private life, I want my private life. So I am a contradiction, but I don't think anyone can rightly say you don't want to be an elite athlete without selling out. You want to be a footballer. I don't think any footballer is happy to play for a Sunday league team if they want to be a professional footballer. They want to be playing for Man U, or they want to be playing for Real Madrid, and they want to be at the World Cup. My late partner was a gymnast. All he wanted to do was be a GB gymnast and go to the Olympics and earn medals and do gymnastics or athletics in front of 10,000 people at Wembley. So anyone that kind of says they're doing it other than that, I struggle to, that might be right for them. I'm not saying that they're lying, but that is the measure of being a successful pop star, is being famous. I was at the O2 on Thursday this week, seeing another show, and Ariana Grande was performing. And I remember walking through there, and again I performed on that stage, I've met her, and a very normal person, I just looked at these 12,000 people walking around the area, and I thought, that's the power of what I do for a job. Nowhere near that success level. And I don't think I could hack that success level, yeah, of where you are completely, and there's been a lot of things about her in the media about her health and her taking a step back. And when you're a singular person having to please 250,000 people in a week and earn all that money, unless you want to do it for some two-way relationship, and fame is a two-way relationship. Now, fame gets a negative connotation as a word, but she and I and other people that do our job want to perform to people, and that's how you measure your success, to how famous you are. Mm-hmm. Which is, again, it's not the right way about the world should be, but that's what my field requires you to be if you want to be the most successful singer in the world. On that level. Does that make sense? It's really weird.
Of course. So with what you know now, if you were to go back to younger Jaymi, would you still apply for X Factor? Would you have still chosen this path?
Well, maybe not. Like, I guess I would, because I was at college. I went to the Brit School, where Adele went, Jessie J, Amy Winehouse. So they were the names that we were given when we got there. You could be like her. Well, they're the most famous people in the country or the world. So it's never about, oh, you could be Sarah Williamson, who is been working in costume for 15 years. She's done all this. The people that we were fed in our industry to aspire to be like were those stars. So you get ingrained in that. And I was at college, and about a year into my college, into my degree, I got scouted to be a singer, and I got asked to go on tour with Westlife as their support act. Mm-hmm. But it meant I would have to quit my education. And I took that risk. Because I sat there and realised that maybe I wasn't actually as good as everybody in my class. Didn't look like the other boys. I wasn't as physically attractive as the other boys in physique. I wasn't as good a dancer. I'm not an all-rounder. I'm okay at all disciplines in my job, but singing is my strength. And I got scouted for that, and they said, you'll have to leave your college and you'll get no. And I spoke to my college, and they said, no, you won't be able to come back. But in hindsight, I went on stage and I had a week to decide. I did a week's touring with them. And then if I wanted to carry on that tour, I'd have to leave college. And I went on stage at Wembley. My first professional gig was at Wembley Arena at 17 in front of 10,000 people.
So take us to that moment.
That is...
What does it feel like?
I can only describe it. It must be like someone who's never eaten chocolate before in their life for 70 years. And my food, or people that... I don't know. It is the biggest rush in addiction, and I think because that was my first instance, all I've done my entire life is try to chase that adrenaline, and had wonderful times doing it. But I got the fame, I don't know, is it the right word? Yeah, the fame bug. I remember going to do gigs afterwards and being in front of 250 people, and they're just as fulfilling. And the audience it's not about the size of the audience, but the rush of being in front of that many people doing what you love is something that will never go away. And you said, the mountains you've climbed, you want to climb a bigger one. You want to get to the peak of Everest. Yeah. So it's a very strange, it sounds awful, but yeah, I enjoy the fame side of my job. I don't like it in my personal life.
Sure. You've mentioned the word addiction there twice.
Yeah.
It also sounds like the word obsession too, right?
For
I'm
sure.
absolutely obsessed with my adventures. You have to be the best, you have to be obsessed, all those sayings and phrases. But what actually is it that you're addicted to? Is it the buzz? Is it a fulfillment to be on stage? Is it a sense of purpose? What actually is it that pulls you back in?
I don't know anymore. It used to be about being on stage, but I've done that.
Sure.
And you go back to repeat places. And me and my group got back together in 2022 for a 10-year reunion, and we performed at the O2 Arena. Now, again, that was the first time we performed as a group when we were on X Factor. That's where our first audition was. And subsequently, it's the last place I performed with my group. So for 10 years, bookend was the O2. Now, when I went back in 2022, didn't mean the same thing. Still nice, but it didn't have the same rush to it, didn't have the same thing because I've done it so many times. So yes, there's a self-obsession in there because you want to keep doing it, but I don't actually know what it is anymore. I don't know what the obsession or the addiction to my job is, other than I don't know when it's going to end. I think that's it. You never know when it's going to end, and I don't want it to end and then go, oh, I wish I'd done that.
Sometimes there's a beauty in the search for it, right?
Sure.
The quest to find that
the
answer
chase,
is
right?
actually greater than
the chase is better than the 100%.
The climb's greater than reaching the summit. All these things, but doesn't mean it's any less easy, right?
For sure, and it's not easy, and it is easy. It's both. It's relative. I would say the hardest part of anyone that does a job that they enjoy, actually doing the job in hand, getting on stage, that's easy for me. But the hours and the panic and the worry and the self-doubt and this is any industry, again, mine, yours, when you do something like that, where you are the product as well as the boss and as well as the employee, self-deprecation is a huge thing, yeah? The self-saboteur and the imposter syndrome is mad. You sit there and go, why am I crying about, why am I worrying, and why am I up at night worrying about going and sing in front of 10,000 people? How lucky am I? But it is imposter versus, it's devil and angel, and you are generally stuck in the middle of it. There's one side of you that is egotistical, that loves it, that wants to earn money, that gets accustomed to the life you have. And there's the other side of you that all you want to do is just, we were speaking about travel. There's some nights when I was sitting there and I'd come off a matinee, and there's some weeks I was doing 15 shows a week, doing 2 a day, 3 a day sometimes when I was in musicals. And I'd start the day at the 10 o'clock, so excited for the day, and I'd get to the half an hour call before the 7, and I really didn't want to be there. All I wanted to do was go home and watch Bake Off, or watch Bear Grylls, or watch Netflix. And I resented being, and then you have to give your head a wobble, like, why? Hold on a minute, what's the difference between 6 hours ago? But you have all these different voices, I guess is the word, voices in your head, but all these different parts of your subconscious and your conscious that are constantly battling within yourself. So I think it's really important to try and find a space where you maintain the control over your inner thoughts. And that takes a long time. Look, I'm 36 now. I didn't have that self-restraint or that belief in that I could make those decisions for myself. Now look, life throws things at you, and I would say I've learned a lot in doing what I do for a job, but my biggest defining moments have been the things that have been in my personal life, and they're what lead me to be able to make the right decisions in your job. It's weird deep diving into, because all these things happen, they just happen in your brain. These conversations happen to yourself, and you don't actually ever really speak about them out loud and actually analyse, why is it I do this strange job? Surely I should have given. I got dropped at 24. At that age, I had the whole, and I'm not dead yet, but 36 is a really strange place. If I was to give up my job now, no idea what I'd do. Zero. At 24, when I got dropped, this is 12 years ago that I got dropped from my first record label, I could have gone back to college and retrained and actually be maybe a lot further in a career, stable career if I'd have done it. But what stopped me doing that then? Why did I not do that? And now is it too late if I wanted to change? But you have all these conversations in your brain that it's always, and the whole thing about your show, it's a risk. and actually risk. There is no reward without risk. That's a famous saying, and it is true. But actually the risk of it is probably, going back to the question, is what the obsession is. Is that unknown? Why did you put black on poker? Or whatever, I don't know, that's how badly I'm at gambling. You don't. Why did you put black on roulette? Why do we take risks? Why do we do that? I would say that's the obsession, is the unknown.
It's interesting. And it's interesting that often many successful people who come on this show, their defining moments, their tipping points, are never actually achieving the success. It's the moments of adversity before or after. I think we should go to a couple of these moments, say 12 years ago when it happened, whether it's, as you mentioned, the adversity you faced in your personal life. But I think we should try and share a lesson to the audience, because the reality is everyone faces adversity, different ways, different levels, different times. But if there's potentially an 18-year-old student who's just, it's just been results day, hasn't it? Who maybe didn't get their results for university, or whether it's someone who's been dropped from their work, they've worked in industry for 20 years, maybe it's someone who's facing a personal challenge and they've lost someone, or there's illness, or whatever it may be. From everything you've gone through and you've bounced back from, I hope that's the right word. What would your advice be to them? You will survive. That, and having that belief, not right now. If you're going through some adversity, that no one can ever tell you that it's going to be okay. You don't want to hear that. We are, as a species, the most remarkable invention of the divine or of evolution. We don't give ourselves enough credit as a race, as a species, as whatever you want to bracket us as. You can get through it, right? You do have, because if you've chosen to put yourself in a situation where there is high risk and potentially no reward, you can achieve. There's two things that I believe that you can't achieve, that I can't achieve in this world, right? Two things only. One is King of England, and two is President of the United States. Now, I can become a prince. I could find myself a lovely prince and marry a prince, or find a whatever. I could potentially even become Vice President of America, because you don't have to be American to be the Vice President. Other than that, there is nothing that I can't, if I wanted to try to not achieve, but to try to achieve. Now, again, you said about results day. My nephew last year didn't do as well in some of his fields because he wasn't academic, but thrives in so many other ways. And it doesn't, just because it's no now doesn't mean it's no forever. And I think that's a really valid thing. And if you want something enough and you're willing to put the work in, or you're willing to resit your exams, like a lot of kids, and again, I found out yesterday, my mum's work colleague, her daughter is getting her results this year, and I didn't realise this year they've changed the point system than what it was for last year, because it's been 5 years since COVID. So a kid last year could have got a higher result on less points or marks. Now, all these kids yesterday didn't get the results they wanted, are going to be beating themselves up about that. And I didn't get all the qualifications I wanted. I was good at some things, not at others. But if you want it enough and it's hurting you enough that you didn't achieve what it doesn't mean it's no, it doesn't mean it's over now. Life isn't over till it's over. Yeah, the only thing that is irreversible is when we do pass away. Yeah. Other than that, anything could change. It might not, and I'm not saying it will. And I'm not being a delusional person that everything will always come for everyone. Of course, circumstance is important, and some people aren't as lucky, or some people don't have the resources or can't make the decisions. Some people have 3 children to feed and they have to take 4 jobs. So no, they can't go and retrain in the thing they really want to do. I'm very aware of that. But it doesn't mean that it might not happen. And I think a really important lesson that I learned in personal life and career is just keep a little bit of hope. Keep a little bit of space in your heart and your brain for hope. I'd rather have spent my entire life hoping, and the day that I do, go wherever I'm going to go, and whatever your beliefs are. Again, I'm not here to preach about that. I'd rather have spent the whole of my life on hope and it not have happened than spent the whole of my life hopeless. And not hopeless as a hopeless case, but I know a lot of people that believe that it's over. And you look at anyone, and you want to talk about people that are in my industry, right? And I can't believe I'm going to bring up the name, but a lot of young girls and kids who know these people, the Kardashians, yeah? Kris Jenner is one of the most successful businesswomen in the world. I was watching her on a podcast, actually, it just came up. And she divorced from her husband,
and got remarried in, I think, mid-90s, late 90s. So this is since I've been alive. And she had to rely on her ex-husband to pay her credit card bills. Mm-hmm. She has a multi-billion pound dynasty that's happened in the last 26 years. Now, finance is what inspires you. Look at someone like that. Samuel L. Jackson didn't get his first acting role till he was in his 50s. Simon Cowell, at my age, was bankrupt working in the post room at Sony. Oprah Winfrey didn't have it. Tina Turner was in an abusive relationship, was divorced in her mid-30s, had no success. It's never over until it's over. So keeping a little bit of hope that one day it might happen for you, I think leads you into a place where you start to believe it yourself. And I don't think you're ever going to achieve anything if you don't believe that it could happen. Not that it will happen. Mm-hmm. That's a dangerous place to be. Having this belief that it's going to happen for me and you deserve it is not the place to be coming from. Nothing is given to us. We deserve nothing. We're born with nothing, we die with nothing, yeah? But if you believe that it could happen to you, I think is a healthier place to be.
It's like the balance between having the confidence to believe it could happen. If you work hard, you take risks, you have a bit of luck, but not the ego of going, well, it's going to happen either way. Of course not. So I can switch off.
Never rest. Never give up. Don't work. You have to work hard in any field. Working hard, training, putting the hours in, again, is just as equally important. Because then again, you don't deserve it if it happens if you haven't worked, because there is always going to be someone working 10 times harder than you to achieve what you want. That is more suited, more talented, more deserving. So I always say, never look side to side, right? Never look at people that are to the side of you. Don't judge what that person's got. Always look forward, but 95% of the time, but 5% of the time, it is important to look who's on your shoulders, who wants it more than you, who's coming up. Because you're never going to get to where you want to be if you don't know where you've come from. But if you don't ever look of where you've been, you're never going to get to where you want to be. So it's all of these things encompassing, I think. Like you said, luck, hard work, right time. But you have to put the hours in as well.
But where do we find the hope to keep going? Is there a moment in your personal journey or your work, your life, wherever it may be, where maybe it's 12 years ago where you didn't feel like there was any hope, but you found it? I think one of the greatest ways to inspire audiences is to give real life examples. So could you give us a moment which has, on paper, been adversity, but you've shown resilience? I
mean, my fiancé died 2 years ago. That is the biggest pivotal moment of my life, without a doubt. No, I was very hopeless and still am. You lose hope about things. And when I got dropped again, and that sounds, up until my partner died, and that was the biggest thing I'd ever been through. But now it seems like, what was I worrying about then? That's not real life. That doesn't matter. At the time it did. I don't believe that hope is something that you can train yourself to have, right? I believe we all have it. I think it's all ingrained in us. Is why do we want to breathe? Why do we want to survive? And it's not about hope in religion or in faith, but I think faith is something that's ingrained in us. Not what your faith is, but having faith in. We all hope that the sun's going to come up tomorrow. Yeah, we all believe that the sun's going to come up tomorrow. If you're ever in a dangerous situation, you say a prayer. No, not to whatever deity or whatever, not to a thing, but we all go, God, please let me survive this. You'd hope. Because why do you want to survive? If you are poorly or if your loved one is going through illness, and these are real life problems, yeah, this is like big problems, you would sit there and go, I really hope they're okay, or I really hope I do, or exam results. How many kids in the country this week were sitting there when they opened that going, please, 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 yeah? So it's ingrained in us to have it. But I think when you also hit a major a major setback in life, our survival instinct as a species is something that I've never witnessed until what I went through recently. Now, of course, I was the most hopeless person on the planet. I didn't want to survive. I didn't want to get up out of. I didn't believe in the world anymore. Didn't believe in my belief systems. Everything that I held dear in my life, being in a loving relationship and having a good job, meant nothing anymore for a short period of time. And then something started trickling back into me after I was never will be. Once I was over the initial shock, I think, of what was happening in my life and finding trials, that little hope does start to trickle in. And I wasn't consciously doing that. It was just naturally. Now, whether that's just because that's in me as a person, I know everyone's different. And some people are more hopeful. That is a fact. And some people have the life history and they have the life experience to be lucky enough to be more hopeful. Yeah. I faced some huge adversities in my life. And I would say what I've gone through in the last 2 years, I would say is probably harder than what some people will ever go through in their life, emotionally. Yeah. My counterparts, yeah. I know some of my friends will be married and some of my friends will never have a partner, and is my story harder than theirs? But for me, it's the hardest thing I will ever go through. Sorry, word that better. It's the hardest thing I will ever go through. But if I can still manage to put one foot in front of the other after something like that happening to me, there's nothing now that will ever, I don't believe, be as hard as that. So yeah, you can speak from a place of privilege in that, which is weird to sound privileged because I'm widowed. I'm not. I'm privileged because I now know that nothing can stop me being hopeful. Now, and I also believe that you as a species, we're very much like sponges. Yeah, we may not believe it, we may not see it, we may not consciously do it, but having positivity around you, but also having negativity around you is really important to our character development. And it's like I sit there and watch television. I think maybe me and one of the producers spoke about this. When you go onto certain streaming platforms, or you watch the news, or you watch adverts for everything at the minute, there's so much negativity and doom and gloom being subconsciously fed to us. Now, yeah, the world isn't a great place at the minute. The world has never been a great place. Yeah, the world sucks. Let's be honest about it. People go, oh, life is great with bad things. No, life is notoriously hard and bad with great moments in it. And I changed my viewpoint to that life is never going to be easy, nothing's going to be gifted. And actually, in balance of it, we probably go through a lot harder things as humans in our lifetime on balance than good things that happen to us. But we all still hope. Naturally, it's in us. And it's just finding a way to tap into that more.
That seems to be like a key word in your life. It's interesting. I have this belief that you don't have to be an adventurer to have the adventurous spirit.
At all.
And I've been thinking a lot lately. I've been increasing my training. I'm working on this new project, this kayaking expedition. And I've been thinking a lot about the pillars that have carried me through previous adventures and that will, God willing, carry me through this next one. And the 3 pillars are in many ways risk, sacrifice and faith, almost in that order, 100%. Because you have to take the risk to start, which we spoke about. You have to sacrifice, work hard, know what potentially you have to give up to get, and then also the faith that once you take that first step, there's no turning back. There's no backup plan. There's all these different things. And it's quite interesting. We've almost touched on all 3 of them. So I can definitely say, Jaymi, after our first conversation, you have that adventurous spirit.
Thank you.
And that's clearly carried you through your journey. I think we started strong. We should finish strong here.
Lovely.
Hope is the word that's recurred throughout this conversation. If you can dream of the next North Star, of what's next for you, your next chapter, what do you hope it will be?
I think for me it's peace. And whether that comes personally, career-wise, romantically, not romantically, or everything that's where I'm at the minute is I don't actually know what's next. But all I hope for, again, in life is just an inner peace. And I've had that in my life, but to maintain that's the greatest gift. Money, job, none of that really matters in the grand scheme of things, yeah? Just to have a life where I look back on it and just every year give myself, at the end of my goal is at the end of every year to look back and be proud of what I've achieved. No matter, not my achievements, but to be proud of what I've achieved. Whether that's meeting a new friend, doing something new, doing something I wouldn't do. So yeah, I guess the next North Star to me is just maintaining being happy. Because it's not something I've been for a few years. So yeah, happiness, I would say, is the goal. Whatever that looks like, I don't know. But I think if you can, and again, same for viewers to take away, if you can look back on your life and say that you've had happy moments and you've got no regrets, then you've lived a life that is full.
It's a great answer. It's almost being proud of who you are, not what you
100%,
are.
100%, none of it matters.
That's what really matters. The values you stand for, the person you are.
Yeah, your morals.
To your loved ones. I think that's the perfect place to finish, to be proud of who you are and not what you are. We have this way to finish the show. It's called Bob's Everyday Hero, and people send in nominations for themselves, a friend, a family member, and essentially you can nominate anyone who deserves to be given a shout out, someone who's achieved something amazing recently, a work goal, a personal goal, it may be a moment of kindness, just someone who is an everyday, maybe unseen hero who deserves a shout out. Jaymi, if you don't mind, I'd love for you to nominate this week's everyday hero, to give someone a shout out in your life who maybe you know or don't know personally, who you think deserves to be acknowledged.
Now, personally, I'm going to be very cliche. I'm going to say my mum is like that. That is definitely my personal hero. I think at the minute, in the way the world is at the moment, and it sounds again quite cliche, anyone that works in a job of service, for me, and that could be anyone. And somebody, again, actually someone, I will mention someone, and I don't know if she ever watched this, someone who was an everyday hero to me when my partner died was Paige, who was my mental health person that was work for me. So yeah, I'd like to nominate her as well and say it to her, because being able to listen to people, anyone that works in mental health, is a huge star in our life, because they have to take on all of this stress and pain from other people, but still give you the best person. I can honestly say I don't think, and not to end it on negative, without her, I would be where I am today. So yeah, two. I'm going to give you two. Mum and Paige, who's the...
Mum and Paige. Well, if they are listening, please do drop us an email, louis@ifyoucanhq.com, and we'd love to send them both out a Bob shower pack and a bit of a gift set.
Don't tell her that, I'll take it. I'll take it home with me, and then just say my
Let's do that.
But no, thank you.
Jaymi, thank you so much for joining me, if you can. And I wish you all the best with finding happiness and peace, because you deserve it.
I'm hopeful, so yeah.
Hope. It's a great answer.